Hi friends, my name is Nandita. I am from Andhra Pradesh.
Good morning dear students. Today we are going to discuss about my childhood lesson from Cbse syllabus. Children, can you think of any scientist who have also been statesman? Yes, he is none other than A.P.J. Abdul Kalam, whose projects in space, defense and nuclear technology guided India into the 21st century, became our 12th president in 2002. In his autobiography, Wings of Fire, he speaks of his childhood like this. I was born into a middle class Tamil family in the island town of Rameswaram in the erstwhile Madras State. My father, Jainadhin, had neither much formal education nor much wealth. Despite these disadvantages, he possessed great initiative wisdom and true generosity of spirit. He had an ideal helpmate in my mother, Ashayama. I do not recall the exact number of people she fed every day, but I am quite certain that far more outsiders ate with us than all the members of our own family put together. I was one of many children, a short boy with rather undistinguished looks, born to tall and handsome parents. We lived in our ancestral house, which was built in the middle of the 19th century. It was a fairly large pakka house made up of limestone and bricks on the Musque Street in the Rameswaram. My austere father used to avoid all the inessential comforts and luxuries. However, all necessities were provided for in terms of food, medicines, or clothes. In fact, I would say mine was a very secure childhood, both materially and emotionally. The Second World War broke out in 1939 when I was 8 years old. For reasons I have never been able to understand, a sudden demand for tamarind seeds erupted in the market. I used to collect the seeds and sell them to a provision shop on Musque Street. A day collection would fetch me the princely sum of 1 anna. My brother-in-law Jalaluddin would tell me stories about the war which I would later attempt to trace in the headlines in Dinamani. Our area being isolated was completely unaffected by the war, but soon India was forced to join the Allied forces and something like a state of emergency was declared. The first casualty came in the form of the suspension of the train halt at Rameswaram station. The newspapers now had to be bundled and thrown out from the moving train on the Rameswaram road between Rameswaram and Danskudi. That forced my cousin Samsuddin, who distributed newspapers in Rameswaram, took look for a helping hand to catch the bundles, and as if naturally I filled the slot. Samsuddin helped me earn my first wage. Half a century later, I can still feel the surge of pride in earning my own money for the first time. Every child is born with some inherited characters into a specific socio-economic and emotional environment and trained in certain ways by figures of authority. I inherited honesty and self-discipline from my father and from my mother. I inherited faith in goodness and keep kindness, and so did my 3 brothers and sisters. I had 3 close friends in my childhood whose names were Ramananda Sastri, Arvindan and Shiva Prakashan. All these 3 boys were from orthodox Hindu Brahmin families. As children, none of us ever felt any difference among us ourselves because of our religious differences and upbringing. In fact, Ramananda Sastri was the son of Prakasha Lakshmana Sastri, the highest priest of the Rameswaram temple. Later, he took over the priesthood of the Rameswaram temple from his father. Arvindan went into the business of arranging transport for visiting pilgrims, and the Shiva Prakashan became a catering contractor for the Southern Railways. During the annual Sri Sitarama Kalyanam ceremony, our families used to arrange boats with a special platform carrying idols of Lord from the temple to the marriage site situated in the middle of the pond called Rama Trita, which was near our house. Events from the Ramayana and from the life of the prophet were the bedtime stories my mother and my grandmother would tell the children in our families. One day, when I was in 5th standard at Rameswaram Elementary School, a new teacher came to our class. I used to wear a cap which marked me as a Muslim, and I always sat in the front row next to the Ramananda Sastri, who wore the scarlet thread. The new teacher could not stomach a Hindu priest's son sitting with a Muslim boy. In accordance with our social ranking, as the new teacher saw it, I was asked to go and sit on the back bench. I felt very sad, and so did Ramananda Sastri. He looked utterly downcast as I shifted to my seat in the last row. The image of him weeping when I shifted to the last row left a lasting impression on me. After school, we went home and told our respective parents about the incident. Lakshmana Sastri summoned the teacher and in our presence told the teacher that she should not spread the poison of social inequality and communal intolerance in the minds of innocent children. He bluntly asked the teacher to either apologize or quit the school and the island. Not only did the teacher reject his behavior, but the strong sense of conviction Lakshmana Sastri conveyed ultimately reformed this young teacher. On the whole, the small society of Rameswaram was very rich in terms of segregation of different social groups. However, my science teacher Siva Subramanya Layer, through an Orthodox Brahmin with a very conservative wife, was something of a rebel. He did his best to break social barriers so that the people from varying backgrounds would mingle easily. He used to spend hours with me and would say, "Kalam, I want you to develop so that you are on par with the highly educated people of the big cities." One day he invited me to his home for a meal. His wife was horrified at the idea of Muslim boy being invited to dine in her ritually poor kitchen. She refused to serve me in her kitchen. Siva Subramanya Layer was not perturbed, nor did he get angry with his wife, but instead insisted, served me with his own hands and sat down beside me to eat his meal. His wife watched us from behind the kitchen door. I wonder whether she had observed any difference in the way I ate rice, drank water, or cleaned the floor later the meal. When I was leaving his house, Siva Subramanya Layer invited me to join him for dinner again the next weekend. Observing my hesitations, he told me not to get upset and saying like this, "Once you decided to change the system, such problems have to be confronted." When I visited his house the next week, Siva Subramanya Layer's wife took me inside her kitchen and served me with food with her own hands. Then the Second World War was over and Indians' freedom was imminent. Indians will build their own idea, and it was declared by Gandhiji. The whole country filled with an unprecedented optimism. I asked my father for permission to leave Rameswaram and study at the district headquarters in Ramananthapuram. He told me as if you're thinking aloud, "Abdul, I know you have to go away to grow. Does the seagull not fly across the sun alone and without a nest?" He quoted Khalil Gibran to my hesitant mother, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you but not from you. You may give them your love but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. These words are said by Dr. A.P.J. Abdul Kalam. Thank you.